Hands up if you've ever prepared for a job interview. Yep, all of us, some more recently than others, I would imagine. And would it be fair to say that when you were preparing, you were practicing being your best? Yeah, because you want to impress, right? You want to shine and have those that interview you feel a really good connection with you and get a sense that you really know your stuff, right? Would it also be fair to say that most days you're not preparing in this way for the day ahead, right? Because job interview is a very specific situation. But I have a thought-provoking question for you. Is it possible that there's a gap between how we are at our best and how we are most days? For most people, there is a gap. And in my experience, it's because we seem to have this ability to have increased awareness and focus for a short period of time, for a defined event. So in this case, a job interview. So for a job interview, we choose to generally have a positive disposition, to exude good energy, to have good eye contact, good listening skills, to speak clearly, and to demonstrate how we can be of great service to other people using our skills and our talents. Yet most days, we don't choose to be at that level. It's always intrigued me as to why we have this ability to lift our performance in certain circumstances, but we find it really hard to maintain it. Who agrees? Have you ever had what I would say is the amusing experience of having VIPs come to your workplace? So it might be a CEO from interstate, it might be a big client or a delegation of people, and suddenly everyone's on their best behaviour. Ever had that happen? What about having guests around to home for dinner? And suddenly the family's all suddenly on their best behaviour. Everyone's just that little bit more attentive, a little bit more polite, respectful, and sometimes they're even a little bit funnier. And at a community level, there's also the response from individuals when large events happen, like catastrophes and crises. So during the recent bushfire season, we've seen the most extraordinary acts of courage and bravery, kindness and selflessness. So we seem to have this amazing ability to rise up to this higher level and sometimes this deeper level when we choose to. And once again, it seems to be for a defined period of time, a shorter period of time, that we choose that something is important enough to us to present as our best, most resourceful selves. It's curious, isn't it? Other than a job interview, can you recall moments in your life where you'd say, yeah, I was at my best then. I was in the zone. I was in the pocket. I looked good. I felt good. I was engaging. I was interacting. I was in the moment and I was being my best. Who has moments like that in their memory banks? Yeah. And they make you smile, don't they? Proud moments of being our best selves. I've got those too, and it absolutely fascinates me why sometimes we choose to be excellent versions of ourselves and why we don't choose to exercise that ability more often. So I'd like to give you some context as to why this happens. Scientists have discovered that we have in the vicinity of 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and that 90 to 95% of what we'll think in a day is what we thought the day before. 90 to 95%. And by the time we're in our mid-30s, just around the corner for most of us, we're essentially running an automatic program in our bodies. A sequence of habits, of thoughts and feelings and actions. And that's because it's really efficient for the human body to operate in this way. Our bodies love being in cruise control because it's easy and comfortable, even though the outcome may not be what we want. So, as an example, sitting on a couch and watching TV. It's easy and comfortable. To go outside and exercise or to sit and study for a couple of hours is much harder. Who agrees? Yep, because it takes more energy. So if they're not entrenched habits, positive habits that you have, your body is going to want to talk you out of doing those things because it will feel uncomfortable. So it will come up with all sorts of reasons, like it's too hot, it's too cold, you are far too tired, you need to sit there on that couch. Maybe tomorrow you can do those other things. Sound familiar? Absolutely. So how many of you know someone in your life that you may get a little frustrated with at times, who tends to repeat the same patterns, but really wants a different outcome? And are there patterns that you recognise within yourself that are hard to shift? Yeah, we all have them. So consider this. If you've been practicing the same sequence of thoughts and feelings and actions for the last 10, 20, 30 plus years, I'm guessing that you'd agree with me that it could be very difficult to choose to do something different and to maintain it, right? I'm on a mission to help business owners and leaders understand this change process and the transformational power of choice. Imagine reminding someone about their ability to shine and to give them the tools and the techniques to enable them to do that more often. How amazing would that be? And guess what? If we can practice being our best selves more often, whatever being our best selves looks like to you, because that's a very individualised thing, being your best. But if we can practice that, then we get to upgrade our automatic program and actually raise the bar of our own excellence. And what will happen if we can regularly and consistently commit to the thoughts and the feelings and the actions that represent our best selves, is that we can actually change our brain. So you will quite literally start to weaken old neural pathways, networks and circuits in your brain associated with the old habits and patterns of old choices. And by making new choices, you can establish new neural pathways. Keep practicing these new choices and they will become your new automatic program. Breathtakingly elegant, isn't it? That we all have the power and the capability to do this, and yet for the most part, we're not educated about this change mechanism within the human body, nor are we coached and encouraged about the power that our everyday choices can have. If you exercised the transformational power of choice more in your life, what could you achieve? Could you pick up on a goal that you'd talked yourself out of? Could you take better care of yourself and prioritise a better diet, regular exercise? Could you develop greater patience with your work colleagues or your family members? Questions are a really great way, I think, to identify what our best has looked like and, importantly, what it could look like. And what I find is really exciting about this is that it's all possible. But we do have to be aware and we do have to consciously make choices and commit to those new choices until they become our positive habits. So you may be wondering why this is a particularly fascinating topic to me and has actually become a passion for me because of how life started out. So I was an incredibly shy child and I got bullied at school because I had short hair and I got told repeatedly that I looked like a boy for a long time. So while I can't profess to have totally conquered shyness during my school years, I did get better at making choices that enabled me to practice self-belief, confidence, and courage. And do you know what? By doing so, I actually weakened those old neural networks in my brain that I had developed that were associated with shyness, with not belonging, and with not being good enough. So through being incredibly shy, I have developed this really strong interest in behaviour, in language, words, choice, and decision making. And professionally, it's led me into a career in journalism, public relations, communications, and marketing. And I've also spent many years studying and practicing meditation, neuro-linguistic programming, and the neuroscience of change to help me better understand the mechanisms of change within the human body and how to tap into that transformative power that we all have to choose. Knowing what I know now, I believe that it would be fabulous in schools for students to learn how thoughts and feelings and behaviours are formed. But in the absence of that being in our school system, I believe as business owners and leaders that we absolutely have a responsibility to lead by example, to educate and inform and encourage those around us about how to exercise the transformational power of choice readily and consistently to enable us to become who we know we're capable of being. So, how do we do that? Well, education is the first step. So, telling you what I've told you today and a little bit more about how we're largely unconscious beings, habitual beings that run on autopilot. Developing an awareness of who we're being, how we're being, and who we could be. Learning about neuroplasticity and how we can actually change the brain. And learning some tools and techniques to help us pause and consider other ways of thinking and feeling and doing. So I'm on a mission to share this knowledge and to highlight that we can all do this. And we've all got wonderful examples of being at our best and helping you to do that more often. So in our time together this morning, I wanted to impart a technique to you. So are you interested in just spending a few moments learning a technique? Yep, excellent. So this technique is super simple and super effective. So what I'd like you to do is to think of a task at work that you love doing, that you're really, really good at. You likely do this task with ease and maybe you get compliments for doing it and you feel really good when you do it. So I'd like you to place your left hand on your heart and I'd like you to feel that feeling of doing this task well and have that image of doing that task in your mind's eye. You may like to close your eyes if that's easier for you, but I'd really like you to feel in your heart, in your chest, that really good feeling that comes with doing that task. And you might be having a little smile to yourself about how good you feel and that you've got the capability of doing that task. Okay, you can remove your hand and just jiggle your shoulders and just shake that one off. Okay, now I'd like you to think about a task at work that you don't like so much. And it's likely to be something that you avoid doing or you put off. We've all got those things. So if you can think of that task now, think of it in your mind. And if it's not at work, maybe just think of something else that you don't like doing. And just sit with that feeling for a moment of that doesn't feel so good, and have that image in your mind. Okay, you can shake that one off, jiggle your shoulders. Now I'd like you to return to that feeling of the task that you do like doing. So place your hand on your heart again, and I'd like you to actually bring up that feeling of doing that task even stronger now. So really feel it in your heart and in your chest, that feeling of doing this task well, and feel it permeate your body. And now what I'd like you to do is flick that image of the task you like out of your head and bring in the task that you don't like. But I'd like you to keep generating this good feeling in your chest associated with the task that you do like. So you may even be smiling at that task now that you don't like because you're feeling so good. You're feeling good about the task that you do so well. Okay, we can shake that off. Now, who felt somewhat of a shift about that task that they didn't like as a result of doing that? Yeah, some nods. Now, granted, we didn't spend very long doing that task, but I wanted to demonstrate that today, just to illustrate to you that with some awareness and with a technique to call upon, that at any time we've actually got the ability to transform how we're thinking and feeling about a given situation. So it may not change the ultimate outcome. You may still have to do that task that you don't like, but it empowers you to manage your emotions around that task. And isn't it better to do that task and feel better about it than not feel so good about it? So being able to empower yourself and manage your emotions in that situation helps you to feel like you are in control of it rather than the situation happening to you. So that might be something that you'd like to practice in your workplace or maybe at home. And it also may be a technique that you'd like to pass on to someone else as well, particularly someone who you see might be, stuck in a particular situation. It might help them to shift out of that. So today more than ever, I think in a world full of so many pressures and stresses, I think it's really important for us to have the knowledge, the skills and the techniques, and importantly, the commitment to practice them so that we can lead ourselves and others well. By embracing the transformational power of choice, I think we can navigate this world with a little more ease. And I think we can choose to be at our best more often. If you would like to book me for a talk or a workshop about transformational change, I'd be delighted to have a chat with you after the networking event. Thank you very much.